Alright, today we're going to learn about how to name covalent compounds and how to write their formulas. I'm going to have a lot of stuff here that's pre-written, so you'll pause as this goes along so you can write in what I have. Okay. Alright, so what is a covalent compound? A covalent compound is a bond that's between a nonmetal and another nonmetal. So elements from the right-hand side of the stairs in your periodic table. So again, these are your nonmetals, this area here. So if you have two of these bonded together, that would be a covalent compound, and you would follow the covalent compound naming and formula writing rules. Again, covalent compounds, to differentiate between ionic compounds, they're going to always start with a nonmetal. As with ionic compounds, they start with a metal. So with covalent compounds, we use prefixes. The prefixes are used to indicate the number of atoms for each element. So here are the following prefixes. Okay. Some of these you're going to kind of see maybe from geometry class. Some of them will kind of sound a little bit similar. So mono is a prefix that means 1. Di means 2. Tri means 3. Tetra means 4. Penta means 5. Hexa means 6. Hepta means 7. Octa means 8. Nona means 9. Deca means 10. So how we use these to name a covalent compound, for the first element, one thing you have to keep in mind, if there's no number after the first element, so no subscript, it does not use a prefix. So for example, in CO2, that's carbon dioxide. So we just say carbon. We don't say monocarbon dioxide, we just say carbon. So if that first element, there's no subscript, no little number after it, you don't use a subscript, or you don't use a prefix. Okay. However, if there is a number after that first element, you do use a prefix that matches that number. So for example, if I had, like for example, C3O, that would be tricarbon, saying, hey, 3 tricarbon. So the tri is saying you have 3 carbons. So this is tricarbon. Second element, you're always going to use a prefix no matter what. So you use a prefix that matches the number you're working with. Just like before with ionic compounds, you cut off the ending of these and put an "ide." So for example, for CO2, carbon dioxide. So the di is indicating you have 2 oxygen. So instead of saying dioxygen, we say dioxide. So we cut off the ending and put "ide." How do you write the formula for a covalent compound? The first element, again, if you don't have a prefix, you just have one of that element. If there is a prefix, you're going to write down the number that corresponds or matches that prefix after it. So this is going to be your subscript. Okay. Second element, same rules. Okay, so same idea as what you did for the first element. So let's try this out, a couple of them here. We're going to do first we're going to do some formula writing. Okay, so dihydrogen monoxide. Okay, so that di means 2, and that's saying hydrogen. Okay, so that I would write that as H2, and then here we have the prefix mono, and then oxide. Okay, mono means 1. Oxide comes from oxygen. It's the ion name of oxygen. So 1 oxygen. So there you go. So that is the technical name for water, dihydrogen monoxide. Carbon tetrabromide. So carbon, okay, there's no prefix. That means we have one of it. So I'm going to write C, 1 carbon, tetrabromide. Bromide comes from bromine. Tetra in your prefix list means 4. So I think BR4. I think of tetra like Tetris has lots of 4-sided shapes. Okay, next one, phosphorus trichloride. All right, no prefix, so it means I have one of it, so I'm just going to write P. Trichloride, I have trichloride. Chloride comes from the element chlorine. And then tri is the prefix for 3. So that means you have 3 chlorine, so you put the 3 after the chlorine. So tri, like tricycle. All right, last one, carbon disulfide. So carbon has no prefix, which means you have one of it. So write a C. Disulfide. Sulfide comes from sulfur, Di is the prefix for 2. So it means you have 2 sulfurs. So you put the 2 after the sulfur. All right, so that's for formula writing. For naming, just kind of the same thing. You're using those prefixes to figure out how to name it. So here I have 1 carbon. When you have 1 of that first element, you don't use a prefix, so you just write carbon. And here we have bromine and 4 of them. So we have 4 bromines. So we use the prefix for 4, the tetra for 4, tetra. And then instead of bromine, we say bromide. Okay. Here I have nitrogen without a number after it. That means I have 1 of it, so I don't need a prefix. So just for that first element, if you don't have a number after it, you do not need a prefix. And then here, chlorine, 3. So I have 3 chlorine. So I need to use the prefix for 3, which is tri. And then chlorine, but now it's going to be chloride. Okay. Phosphorus, no prefix, or sorry, no subscript. So it means I have 1 of it, so I don't need a prefix, so phosphorus. And then here I have 3 hydrogens, so I need the prefix for 3, which is tri. And then instead of hydrogen, it would be hydride. All right, last one, 2 nitrogens. So here my first element actually does have a subscript after it, a number. So I need to use a prefix. So 2, that would be di. Dinitrogen, we don't cut off the ending of the first element. And then the last element here is 3 sulfur. So 3, again, tri. And then instead of sulfur, it's going to be sulfide.